So, good evening. Here's another video. I kind of called it probably a tutorial. And I wanted to go real quick through the analysis of the failure of the Fabi chain again, the Fabi tensioner, and the original issue. As you can see here, I'm in Carfax and I have the mileage here. And it starts down here at 51,000 miles in 1991. That was the original owner, from what I have gathered. He owned the car until it had about 140,000 miles, which was in 1997. Then he sold that, and from this mileage on forward until 2007 here, where is it? Let me put my glasses on. 2007 here at 239,000 here in this area. The owner bought this 236. Yeah, he bought it in 2006. That was the third owner. He didn't own it very long. He owned it about a year, and I guess they may have done something, they may have not done something. We can take a look here. Vehicle serviced, engine checked, wheels checked, passed the emissions test, vehicle serviced, and vehicle serviced engine oil fluid leak checked. So there was something leaking at that point. The car doesn't have any leaks at this point. Now in 2008, that lady bought this vehicle with probably 246,000 miles. That would be here. That was the registration date. It's in June 15th, so right around there. It was inspected and she renewed and transferred the title at this point. And then you can see here in 2010 she passed the emissions test. The car had about 30,000 miles in 2 years, so she drove 15,000. And then from 2010 to 2012, the car went another 30,000, 40,000, so she drove about 20,000 miles. And then we go up here in 2012. She failed the emissions test and then passed the emissions test. And then at 3,000 in 2014, she had another emissions test at 3,330, 200. And then here, this is where the speedometer stopped. So somewhere in here, it stopped. And she passed the emissions test. Then the car didn't have any more updates on it until I purchased it back in November. And this was my first update I did of all the planned inspections and changes, all the things which were repaired. And then you can see this was also when we fixed the speedometer now again. So from 403 is when I got it. From 16 to 20, there was nothing, and that's when I started. That was after the repair of the speedometer of the counter. And then it went over to Aristocrat Motors here, and they got me the master keys for the vehicle so I could get into the trunk and get the central locking to work. Then I did an oil change, and then most recently a brake job on this here. Oil and filters changed, front brake services, brake rotors replaced, and brake pads replaced. Next thing will be the we're going to fix or change the calipers on this. That will be a separate video. But this is where I think the trouble started, is here when she failed the emissions test in 2012. And that's because the timing would have been terribly off with this broken rail. Now let me show you the pictures I got here. These were the parts I found in the oil strainer. And this is what the current guide rails look like. It so you can see on how much darker the original ones were, and they failed around in early 2012. And then she went to the emissions test, she failed it, And they opened the thing up, and they found out that one of these guide rails was broken. But you can see is the discoloration stages on how this happens. I believe that this car never has gotten a replaced chain until that point. Let me go back here, until 2012. So at about 300,000 miles, 312,000 miles, that was when the chain was actually replaced. And that's when they put in these new guide rails. I say new, they are now already 8-9 years old too, what you're looking at here with the pictures. And just to give you an idea, this here is a brand new guide rail from Mercedes-Benz. These here, I ordered them already. I will replace these ones in here with those. And this is the color what they have when they're brand new. So you can see the 3 stages, 30, let me just see how much, 312, 330. That's about 18,000 miles and 9 years. Versus 312,000 miles and 20 years at that point. Or 23 years. The car was in 89. If that happened in 2012, that would put them into 89, 2009, 20 years. Yeah, 23-year bracket. So after 23 years it broke, and you can see on the hole here that it broke actually in these here. And I'm not quite sure, of course, which part this was. That is hard to tell. But it was this here. It broke on one of the, where the pins go through, and this is the part here. This area here is what wound up in the engine, and then the thing was basically dangling only on one of them. It broke out. It probably banged like this. It broke on the back side off, so that the chain could go this way. There was only one of them, which indicates that not the entire guide came loose. So that was a good thing. That's why she got away with it and she drove it, because she probably didn't notice this. The only thing what you will notice with this is a change timing and a loss of performance and a rough idle and increased emissions. That's why she failed the emissions test when this breaks, because the chain is still in there, and the chain must have had quite some slack. I also ordered earlier the Fabi tensioners of rails, just to have a comparison between a Mercedes-Benz and a Fabi unit. So you can see both of them. The lower one is the Fabi, the upper one is the Mercedes-Benz. And the first noticeable issue, what you can see here, is the entry for the injection molding. And you can see that the surface itself is not very smooth. And if you look at the Mercedes-Benz one, you can see this, that the surface has a mirror finish. The two plastics are also very, very different in feel. The size, if you hold them together, you can see this, they don't quite fit. The Mercedes-Benz one is a tad bit longer, probably 1/8 of an inch on both sides. And also the guide pins have a more loose fit in the Mercedes-Benz one, so they're easier to go in here. So this is just a short rundown. Now this goes into the general issue with the parts. The Fabi parts now say, I don't know if you can see this, I don't know if I can zoom in that close. No, unfortunately not. But they say now only Germany. And if you look at the package, it says on the package, made in Germany. When you turn it around, made in Germany. This here is unfortunately the wrong guide for the 5.6 liter engine. This here, the 0521716, is the shorter version for the 380 with 3.8 liter, 4.2 liter, and 4.5 liter engines, 116. For the 117 engine, the 5 liter and the 5.6 liter, you will need this one here, and this has a different part number. So if you have a 5.6 liter and you buy one of these kits, which is all complete, and you have this part number in here, the 116 0521716, this is the wrong rail for your 5 liter or 5.6 liter engine, just to let you know. I got this in a set with the Ibis chain, and I bought the whole thing because it was just easier looking at it. And I also have a brand new Mercedes-Benz chain tensioner rail here. This is the newer version of it, and I have that pin which is self-extracting, which doesn't have a thread in it. If you can see it, it is hollow, no threads. It is a little bit rifled in there, and that is the one where they want you to go in with the screw like this here and angle the screw like this. You angle this down and you start pulling. You can see it. You can pull that quite a bit before it, and that should pull that out. And like I said, is you can use any M8 or 5/16 bolt for this. And if this doesn't help you, then all you do is you put some epoxy or the JB weld on it, and you just glue basically the screw into the old pin, and then you can just pull the whole thing out. This is for the only for this rail here, for the chain tensioner. See how nice this, how easy this fits? And this is basically what this looks like when it does not damage the surface. So this is a brand new one. I bought this just out of precaution, and because I could see wear here from that Fabi chain that had worn out, even though it got only 20,000 miles or something like this on there. Now on the other hand, these are the pins which are threaded, which it's hard to see, but they have a thread in there, and you can screw. Of course, that screw is larger. This is which requires the pullers to pull them out. You screw the screw in, and then you either can do the hammer pull and pull it out, or you can get the extractor. Those go with this stuff. This is the lower driver's side rail where you have to take the cover off, because these two guides or pins, they are actually mounting into the engine block, and this is then put in like this, and it sits in like that. And so that's this. So for this, the timing chain cover has to come off. And now let's go over to the next thing. This here is the offset key. We actually need, I'm not going to take this out because I'm going to lose this. Let me see if we can show this properly. It's hard to see. You can see the edge on it, and this is what they look like it. This is what these Woodruff key offset keys look like it. And then we have this here, and I've ordered those for $40, and they came off Amazon, and they shipped them, interestingly enough, all the way from Latvia, from this place here, American company, and it was shipped from Latvia. And I have to return them because they have chips on them. They're brand new. See, we can see this here. This is this tooth here, which has a chip mark. That's probably hard to see. But yeah, here you can see it. This tooth is chipped and this tooth is chipped. And then the other thing is we have the key thing here is not that great either when you look at it. So those are the $40 parts, and I ordered them for a very particular reason. This was one, and this is the other one, which is chipped here. So when you get these parts, it is this tooth here. They're very, very small chips, but you can see them right here where my thumb is. And there was a few more on the inside here, which I saw. Yeah, here's another one. This is defects from manufacturing. And the reason why I did this was because these are swag camshaft sprockets. And swag used to be the OE or OEM for Mercedes-Benz for those. And they were bought out by Fabi, or Bilstein is the parent company which owns Fabi, and they own Swag and another brand. And what they did now is they reduced their quality to this level from the original one, so they can sell this as Fabi. So you can get these here, marked as Swag, which it says here. It does no longer tell you which country they're coming from, with a stamp P on it. And they're coming, it doesn't say anywhere where they're coming from. And anyway, those are the Fabi parts. They're sold under Swag, but you can also get them for $30 in the Fabi package. $40 if you get the Swag one. They don't sell them anymore in the Swag box. That's what I got them from Lithuania or Latvia. And unfortunately, they're so poorly manufactured that you can't use them. It's just unreal. So I have to dish out the $215 or $220 for the Mercedes-Benz ones. And what I also suspect is that the casting material, the iron or iron combination or metal combination, what they have in there, is not the same as what you had before. And I would not recommend them. If you buy them, inspect them very, very carefully. Is there's even the smallest chip on any of these teeth, which there's quite a few of them on this one here, on both of them, you do not want to put them in, because that indicates that they were manufactured very poorly. And the worst thing is that the teeth break off, and that is a lot worse than one of these things here breaking, because this is just plastic which will be ground down. Most of it hangs up in the oil strainer filter in that mesh, and that mesh has a clearance only for parts which will fit through the smallest oil pipe in the system, which means if it is larger than that, it won't go through the oil strainer system, and it will prevent your system from clogging up. Everything that is smaller than that, the pump and everything else will grind it down into dust, and it will get flushed out with the oil. If this thing comes loose, you're gonna be in a world of trouble. Your engine is basically gonna be toast. So the Fabi part for $30 is the same as this one here for $40 with free shipping or without free shipping. And they're both extremely poor quality. You can see this here on the entry point for the key. You can see the chip mark. This is poorly manufactured. I wouldn't take a guess where it was manufactured. There you can see it. But this was not manufactured in Germany, and it sure doesn't meet the specifications for Mercedes-Benz. That kind of sums this up with the tensioners, the sprockets, and the offset keys. And you have a great evening, and we will pick up on the brake calipers, because that is another story which is developing here, which is going to blow you out of your socket with what they're doing. You have a great evening, and a happy 4th of July.